This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to your live safari for today on this extremely hot afternoon here in Djuma Game Reserve. We're lucky enough to have encountered this mother and her calf trying to keep cool. So jump on board, everyone. It's time for your live safari through the African bush. Welcome everyone to your personalised journey through 6 different locations in Africa today. This location, as I already mentioned, is Djuma Game Reserve, and we're very happy to have you on board. My name is Lauren. I do have Niels on camera, and I've already told you it's hot. I'm probably going to keep telling you it's hot because it's really hot. It's 34 degrees Celsius. I'm just going to keep my eye on this female here, and 94 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's an extremely hot afternoon. Hello, little one. Are you also very hot today? I was hoping to catch some elephants swimming, but I have a funny feeling I've already missed it at Treehouse Dam. But it is your live safari. Please do talk to us about anything you're seeing here out in the wild. Use the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, or you can use @FC on the YouTube chat stream. If you don't have any questions, then send in your lovely comments. We want to hear them. And they're just wondering if we were actually at the hyena den and we came across this herd of elephants. I'm starting to drive myself crazy with the lack of encounters I'm having with the hyenas. They seem to only be active at that den in the morning for some reason. I don't know whether they're maybe active a little bit later in the evening after our drive is finished. So I only have that window in the morning to really spend time with them. And I'm determined to sort of get an official decision on Heart's cub's gender. So there's no way the hyenas are going to be lying out in the sun in this heat today with no shade. But I thought I'm going to drive past anyway. And so I did. And I managed to find just a few. I think there's only 6 or something elephants here. But luckily there's a breeze coming through now. And we can sort of relish it, as I'm sure the elephants are as well. I'm going to see if I can roll forward, Niels, because this is... Or actually, maybe I can reverse. I'm staying far out their way, but it's not the best views here. This is also not great views. Can we try and work with this, Niels? I'll give you one last look at this elephant, and then I am going to get into a better position.
I'll be crossing to the west.
Jumbo, and hello everybody. A very good afternoon and a very warm welcome to the Masai Mara. Thank you, Lauren, for having seen my most favorite animal, elephants. But for me here in the Masai Mara, I got some lions, and a very good afternoon, everybody. My name is David, and with me on camera this afternoon is Bungay. Now, it's rather hot afternoon here in the Masai Mara, and if you look at those 2-3 guards there, you can see they are slowed down. 2 have disappeared. Now, we have that one there, and I was with them this morning, and you can see a little bit of shimmering there, and you can tell it's rather warm. It's about 27 degrees Celsius or 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm sure my friends Nikki and Lauren have told you we are all live and we would love to talk to you. Please send your questions and comments through to hashtag WildEarth on Twitter or at FC in the comment section of the YouTube chat channels. Now, this one female here belongs to a pride of lions that we call the River Pride. If you look at her tail carefully, it's not short, but it is half a tail and the tip is nipped. So that's how I can always identify this pride 100%. And she reminds me of the sausage tree pride with one lead female there in that pride called the kingtail. Now, it's rather hot. You can see how she is panting there. And I got 3 of this pride, 3 females. And from the look of things, they're trying to locate any prey in the grass. My first suspect would be a warthog. Okay, that's a very good question. You're asking how many prides are there in the Masai Mara. There are many. There are very, very many. But the Mara is divided into 2. We have what we call the Greater Mara and the Mara Triangle, where I have. Let me count for you off my head, and I'll start with the one we have here. That's called the River Pride. The closest one to here is called the Owino Pride. Then after that, we got the Mogoro Pride. We got the Egyptian Geese Pride, Salt Lake Pride, and the Sausage Tree Pride. So close to where we are, we got the Purungat Pride. We got about 8 prides in the particular area I am. And that way, or that with the 8 prides, I did not count for you the coalitions. And the coalitions are many and different. What I want to do is to stick around with these 3 girls and find out exactly what they want to do.
So all the way from the Masai Mara down to southern Africa, to the northeastern corner, to a beautiful place here at Ambion Ngala. And you'll notice there's quite a big herd of elephants right in front of us in the riverbed. And hopefully soon we'll be able to show you some of the members within this herd, especially like in and amongst the herd there are quite a few of the babies. But I'm Nikki. I'm going to be your ranger for this afternoon, and on the camera with me is Gert. So just to focus on these elephants, we decided to come down towards the river because, of course, being really warm, there's a good chance that the elephants might have come down either to have a drink or to flick some water or mud onto their back. Now, notice the big herd now. There's a few that are actually gathered at the back there, and you might just see now and again one of the little calves moving around. There's also a big bull off to the left that is making his way down towards the herd. You can clearly see the size difference here, especially if you had to compare him against some of those females that he's moving towards. But also notice at the very top of his back, between his shoulder blades, that wet, moist sand. And that's from him probably just flicking sand onto his back as he was opening it up to go and have a drink. And there you can see the young calf moving. Andrea, it's definitely true that elephants can do that. I have seen elephants also before walking in the riverbed like this, and there's no water at all. And the elephant basically walks and stops at a certain point and then starts digging for the water. So it's almost like knows right here is going to be the best place to look for that water, because they can smell it even under the sand, and they can smell it from quite a far distance away. How far that might be, I'm not too sure, because it all depends on the wind. It depends on how strong that scent is. Sometimes water, if it's more concentrated, you can smell it from further on, but they can definitely smell water from a distance. But it's incredible. Like, for me, it's always such a treat to be able to watch a herd of elephants, especially in the riverbed, because some are trying to drink, others, especially the youngsters, are trying to lie down in that wet sand. You can see the little one's trunk between the mum's legs. You also notice that he's full of sand, and that might have been from him, or maybe even as mum was flicking mud onto herself, or even the sand or water onto her back might have gone over and hit that little one. But it's often such a treat just to watch. just have a look at that little one now moving off to the right. Just following Mom, staying quite close to her. He doesn't want to miss out on anything.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrew. Behind camera, it's BK. So this afternoon, the plan is to go look for the single lioness we've seen up in the west, and then just to see if she's still around. Otherwise, which is actually, it's been a hot day, which is, I believe, if she moved, then it happens she didn't move far away, or could be maybe just moved down to a waterhole. We're just gonna all try search those waterhole up there. And this is such a moonware lioness. And it's amazing thing, when I found her this morning, the guys say that she didn't seem to have the baby with her. And so once we found her, we'll see what happened. And it's probably that maybe the baby was lying far from her, or that could be maybe, you know, they lost in contact one another, or during a hunt, which is unusual for a baby like that age. Could been separated, but I believe, you know, whatever happened, should be, everything is okay. That baby found maybe just lying in the grass. Couldn't actually get the view of it. So we're gonna investigate this first area where she's been left. Carry on.
Going on what Nikki was saying earlier about can elephants smell water, yes, they absolutely can. And I started talking the other day about communication in animals because it fascinates me. So I thought, well, I didn't really get to finish everything I wanted to say, so why don't we continue that talk? Not only do elephants have a really powerful sense of smell for clean water, they don't like dirty water. Treehouse Dam, where we are this now, is said to be one of the sort of cleanest dams. Sorry, a big bird just flew overhead, but I can't see it. Oh, I think it's a harrier hawk, the usual harrier hawk that hangs around Treehouse Dam. But like all social animals, they have to have a way to communicate with one another because they're social. They either live in a pride or a herd, or a clan or a pack. So they have to have some sort of well-developed system of communicating, or else how do they navigate together? How do they stick together? How do they coordinate? And elephants actually make use of all their senses: hearing, smell, vision and touch. And they have this exceptional ability to detect vibrations on the ground. They've got specialized cells on the underside of their foot to do just that. That means they can pick up the really low rumbles that we can actually hear from other elephants around them. So at one end of the spectrum, you've got elephants that will just communicate to one another by rubbing their bodies against each other. And then at the completely other end of the spectrum, you've got elephants that are able to respond to other elephants from about, let's say, 10 kilometers away, which is really, really far to be able to hear those low rumbles. So they've got a huge spectrum of communication. And it's not just the underside of an elephant's foot, it's also the tip of the trunk that has these really sort of layer upon layer of specialized cells. And they're mechanical receptor cells, and what they do is they are extremely sensitive to vibrations, and they're able to detect movement. So anything that vibrates, the soles of an elephant's feet and the tip of their trunk will pick up on that. And this is one way that elephants communicate with one another. Now, it's said to be concentrated in the toe area and the heel area of the foot. So the sort of main part of the foot doesn't have as many of these cells, but the toe area and the heel does. And that's why you'll often find elephants stand with their toes only on the ground, because that's where these cells are concentrated, and it means they're really, really concentrating on listening to something, listening to vibrations. Now, these cells are known as Pacinian corpuscles, if anyone's interested. But it's quite a mouthful, so I think I'll just say specialised cells. And now lots of different mammals have them, but they're particularly densely packed in elephants because they rely on them. So that tip of the trunk that we're seeing there is very sensitive. Rosalind, you're asking about acoustics. So basically, let's just use a typical male voice, a typical human male's voice, sorry. That can fluctuate around 110 hertz, okay? And a female's voice, since ours are slightly higher in humans, is around 220 hertz. Now, when you think about elephants, a male rumble normally comes in at a minimum of 12 hertz. So when you're comparing a male elephant's rumble and a male human's voice, that's 12 to 110 hertz, which is really, really incredible. So they say that a male elephant's rumble is about sort of way more than 3 octaves below a man's voice. So that's really incredible, and it's completely out with the human hearing range.
Oh, a very warm welcome to all of our viewers. Welcome to Toala Kalahari. My name is Carl Ansel, and behind the camera is Mr. David. And it seems like everybody's got the same POA for this afternoon, and that is to be around the most important thing on this planet, which is water. We are going to be sitting at our makeshift hut. David is currently in it, and we are going to be sitting quietly and seeing who will come and visit us. So basically on the same line that we were this morning, allowing things just to kind of unravel and unfold before us. You can see the shell ducks are still looking good. All 4 bubbas are still here, looking very healthy. A lot of communication going on, obviously with just the presence of myself and David here. We've got a good relationship now. They're not too scared, but really nice. We've got a lot of bird activity coming in. It is a little bit warm. It's about 31 degrees today. And we are hoping that this heat brings in a lot of animals to this water. And it's really nice sitting still and allowing your senses to tune in. There's a lot of insects. We're going to get also involved into that a bit later. There's a lot of wasps and a lot of bees coming down, collecting material, drinking water, a lot of different bird species. So it is an absolute perfect plan of action for us this afternoon with this heat. We hope everybody's having a fantastic afternoon and you are ready for what we have in store for you guys. Any questions, please? Don't hesitate to drop us a comment or question, #WildEarth.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to
Sorry about that. I think Pinda has lost their signal, but they will be back with us. Niels and I are just admiring this Hammerkop. It's very busy and it's catching something, and I just cannot. My eyes are not fast enough to figure out what it's catching. They have a broad diet, of course. I wonder if it's small fish or aquatic insects. Oh! I love these birds. I love most aquatic birds. They're just waiting. They've got really similar foot structure to herons, partially webbed. This is because they are aquatic birds, and they're able to stir up the sediment on the bottom, which is so fascinating to watch when you see them do it. They're trying to stir up the sediment, and any living organism that might be delicious that's sitting on the bottom will be stirred up and will be confused and dizzy, and they'll be able to catch it. But our elephants are still here, so I think we'll continue looking at the elephants, because it's been a while since I've seen elephants at a waterhole. And the form of communication that I was referring to earlier is called seismic communication. And that's detecting these vibrations using those specialized cells, completely out the sort of realm of reality for humans. It's very difficult for us to imagine that. And if you think of humans, nowadays we don't really rely on being quiet to hunt, to get our own food from the wilderness. Because we go shopping, we go to the grocery store, we go to Pick and Pay, we go to Tesco and all these wonderful Walmart to get food. So we don't have to be quiet anymore, which means humans are very verbal, sometimes too verbal, but we're still primarily visual. And what I mean by that is we communicate in so many ways that are non-verbal, using our hands. And I'm not just talking about sign language, I'm talking about sort of gestures, eye contact, body posture. If someone's not happy with you, you can normally tell by body posture alone before they tell you that they're not happy with you. Facial expressions, that grumpy look, angry look, unhappy look, and so many other ways that humans sort of transmit our feelings. What are you doing? This one's trying to get the back of its ear all wet to cool down. How sweet. So elephants don't just rely on seismic communication, that's just one of many. Their sort of vocal ranges go from trumpeting to screeching, from rumbles, and only some of it we can hear. Angie, you're asking how agile are elephants' toes? I'll wait to get that confirmed. I really don't know what you mean by that. Their toes don't separate, but they're very good at digging holes. And it's a combination of using their feet, the entire sort of foot, if you like, rather than being able to separate the toes, or using the trunk. So it will be a combination between the two, and sometimes you'll just see them kicking in order to disturb the mud and start digging their hole. And if they come to a water body and it's not clean, they really don't want to drink here, but they can smell the water and they're thirsty, what they will do is use both their feet and their trunk to start digging at the side of the water hole and reach down and get fresh, clean water if they're not happy. Maybe there's an algal bloom or something's in the water that they really don't want to taste. They'll do that using their toes and their trunk. So I am going to check all the water holes before I get ready to go visit Miss Tlalamba.
Good luck in searching for the spotted cats. We have not found any spotted cats, but we've instead stumbled across a couple of buffalo bulls, which is awesome. It's always nice to, of course, see them. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Odie, as usual. He's still here. And, of course, we are on Pridelands, which is part of the Luli Game Reserve and part of the Greater Kruger. But we know these groups of buffalo bulls, so let's see if we can find some of our favorite characters Okay, now there's 2 buffalo bulls that normally hang around in this herd. Hello. And they're normally quite easy to identify. One has got a tongue hanging out of his mouth, but I haven't been able to find him just yet. And then there's another with some very broken teeth, or some missing teeth, should I say. But this is a very healthy looking buffalo. Yes, your coat is lovely. You've still got hair covering your entire body, although it might not look great because he's been wallowing around in the mud. I believe Mike had a sighting with him this morning. So it looks a little bit on the patchy side, but that's normal when they've got mud like that. But something else that I could never ever do with, and that these animals are able to sort of cope so well with, is the amount of bugs that are flying around. And because the temperature has increased a significant amount, the flies will definitely be hanging around and annoying the buffalo. Oh, sorry, never mind. They'll be hanging around their eyes and ears quite a bit. You can see that buffalo is quite annoyed how it's flapping its ears. They're actually lucky. A buffalo have got their ears angled like that, hey? They're almost perfect, so that when they flap them forward, that they're long enough to sort of just cup over and around their eyes to chase them all away. So those insects are after all the moisture. You'd think that they just stick around on the patches of mud on their body, but no. The nose, the eyes, and probably even in the ears would be a bit better. Look there, you can see them flying now, landing on its nostril. Look at all that mucus coming out of there. Fantastic. That's also how we know that he is a healthy fella. Are you having a good smell? They have got very good sense of smell. I don't think he's too sure about us. He's probably saying, why are you just sitting there? I'm supposed to be the biggest and the toughest animal in Africa. People tremble in their boots when they see me, but you just sit there and speak utter nonsense about me. I mean, obviously I'm in a vehicle. I'm a lot more relaxed. While I was actually at one of the other eco-training camps, we had a situation with water, and it required to walk up and down just to check the pipes and to have to bleed them because there was an air block. And walking on the road was a fairly open area, and underneath the one tree that there was behind a big worry bush was a buffalo of about the size that we're looking at now, and I was quite close to him, but thankfully he didn't even realize that I was there. He was fast asleep, so I just tiptoed backwards very quietly and fairly quickly, and then had to go back and get the vehicle. So it's always interesting where you bump into an animal where you absolutely least expect it.
That's correct, Taylor. But now, I got elephants here, and just look at their tusks. I mean, lots of elephants this afternoon from South Africa and here in East Africa, Kenya. But look, they look very grey, and because of the rains we have been having the last few days, it seems they have cleaned all their incisor teeth, which are meant to be the tusks, and look absolutely shining white against the grey bodies. It's definitely a cow. Maybe they had 2 calves. You can see small little baby there learning the ropes, maybe from the mother, on what to eat, what not to eat. If you look carefully, got 1 full adult, that's the mother, and then the calf is sandwiched between 2 of the bigger elephants, which is a very standard behavior of elephants protecting the young ones. Remember, I told you we have highs of 80 or high Fahrenheit or highs of 27 degrees Celsius, and that's just confirmed by the flapping. Those ears you see every few seconds, open, close, open, close. It's the heat of the day, but along the way, it's going to cool off. But look at the baby carefully. She isn't flapping as the adults. And sometimes I've got smaller bodies, maybe do not absorb as much heat. Less surface area, my thinking. And the bigger ones, of course, the bigger surface area of the skin, so hides, they'll definitely have to absorb so much heat. And as a result, they'll need to try and keep cooling it by flapping their ears. Rich, if you look at these elephants, in general what they do, they get sometimes to drinking the water. And when they're drinking the water, either in swamps or springs, that could be the only way I would say they clean the tusk. As much as sometimes in the same water, they would dig mud and maybe dirtify the same tusks. But I would say, Rich, it's the rains we've been having that have kept them clean, and they haven't gone to wallow in, I would say, dirty water, or when they go drinking in the river, they end up having so much mud. Got an airstrip at the very end there. It's called Kichotembo airstrip. But now, look carefully. What do you see there? Forget the plane, forget the airstrip, but that is a pig. Now, this warthog is heading to the wrong direction. Wrong direction because under that termite mound there, you remember earlier we had 3 lionesses? One of them is laying ambush. And that's why I said I'm not going to leave this place. They'll continue waiting because you look carefully there. Do you see her? It's one of the lionesses in the river pride, and the warthog is heading in that direction. I'll continue waiting and update you. Now, I do not think she has an idea that there is a predator very, very close. She has no idea completely. But they'll always have some intuition, or some like sixth sense when they move in the grass, because look at the height of that warthog. It's quite low, and the grass is quite high. They never want to take any chances. But she has to feed, and she has to live her life. So she has to keep moving. Forage, eat grass, go have a drink. But look at her nostrils. They go up. Did you smell something? Sometimes yes, sometimes not. But she's taken a different direction. And she's off, running. Either she smelled the lionesses, because the lioness has come up. And like, oh no, missed it, gone. But very well done. There's a chance you may get another warthog.
How lucky the warthog survived this time. It's good to be surviving in this kind of nature. We have a bit of an elephant activity right here. You can see that teeny tiny baby with the mom. Welcome on board. My name is Tim Leperes, and behind the camera is Big James. Right here we have a big herd of elephants to the left, and we have a small herd of breeding mothers right to where we are. So this teeny tiny baby, I think she's about 2 years old, just slightly learned how to use the trunk. She's watching what the mom is doing while supporting his trunk. See, the mom to the right, just in the middle, is the mom to that teeny tiny one. The one to the left, extreme left, is a boy. And I think mom has been chasing him because he was too rough to the tiny one. Right now, you can see they're all like darkish, blackish. Seems like they've been drinking from the river or waterhole and spraying mud all over the body. That is a good sign that elephants do when they're cooling off. So slowly they'll be grazing to a different ground where it will be safe for the young one and the rest of the elephants to spend the entire night. You can see the mammary glands are so heavy. Seems that it is still nursing that tiny one. So we've been trying to find Jasiri, but came across this herd, which is also nice to see elephants. You can see the ears flapping. Seems like they're cooling off. It's about 27 degrees here in the Mara, about 87 degrees Fahrenheit. So which is not too cool for them. Due to asking how many baby elephants are usually in a herd. So the number of babies fluctuate depending on what type of herd we have. Sometimes when you have breeding herd, we have lots of babies. So sometimes elephants congregate in a certain area where they come to give birth. We call that a nursery area. So it can be sometimes 20, 30, or even 15, depending on the herd size. So the number fluctuates depending on the herd. But usually in a breeding herd, there is actually a big number of babies. Like this one here, we have about 6 babies, including the one that is playing on the ground right now. This teeny tiny one has not yet learned how to use the trunk, so sometimes it goes down to the ground and bites and gets the grass with the teeth. Oh, cheeky one. She's lying on the ground and trying to grasp grass.
So we're having a look at quite a few elephants that have come down to the Waterhole for a swim. And what I want to do is just be quiet so you can listen to how they're swimming and moving in the water, and just enjoy it. Yogesh, it's a big water hole, so probably be more like a lake in comparison to that of a river. But it's only whenever there's a lot of rain that it actually fills up, and the catchment area is just in the back there. So every time it rains, the water will come back or come down from the back into this water hole here. But it's not a river. But how incredible is this? I mean, it was just so nice to listen to sounds as these elephants are playing in the water. You'll see now and again, there's actually a little one just off to the left here now. As Mom is moving into the water, this little one's also trying to have a little suckle. Oh, he's actually a lot bigger than I thought. He was hidden, or most of his body was under the water. But these elephants are enjoying it so much. And a nice warm day. The water must be nice and cool, and with them moving out, you'll notice there's quite a lot of ripples on the water away from the elephants, and that's because there's also a breeze blowing. So imagine now, gone into the water, move out, nice cold breeze blowing over them so it cools them down, and from here on, they'll start feeding again. But these younger ones are just having such a ball. Just look at how that one in the middle has disappeared for a little while, like the bum is against the other one and then lifting its head. Just two youngsters that are having a bit of a tussle in the water still. All you can see is now and again tusks and then big ears. Yeah, and you don't really find that they shelter from the rain. Sometimes if it is raining or if the weather is nice and cool, they tend to move a lot more than in comparison to a very warm day. Sometimes on a really warm day like this, they might be heading down to the water. Look at how the sun's coming back to join. They might come down to the water. If not the water, they might even go to some of the bigger clumps of trees near the water and go and rest up there in the shade and slowly slowly feed as they just basically spend most of the day in the shade, and eventually from there on, as it cools down, they'll start moving again or even come down to the water. But in winter, and especially in winter, you find that elephants tend to move a lot further though, especially on the colder weather. But rain, they won't really go and shelter from the rain. How incredible is that? Big elephant has literally disappeared under the water. And it looks like it might be a young bull that's probably just training behind this herd. And he's enjoyed it so much, like all the other members of that herd that was in the water.
So we have a giraffe here feeding slowly on the kaffir bush. We've had a few herds here coming to this marsh area. We have elephants who've come to join here. We have a few other giraffes feeding. So this kaffir bush also is a very nutritious bush that the giraffes and other elephants like browsing on. See, the female giraffes keep on watching around. We had other giraffes wanting to join in. Not quite sure if they're from the same herd, but sometimes we know giraffes can be mixed up with different other groups, especially in a time like this. So this is called the Masai giraffe. See, this is a female. See the tip of the horns, they have some hairs. Don't know what she's looking at, but keeps on browsing. I think that bush is so tasty, that's why she keeps on going back and forth. Now, giraffes have been placed into an ICU red list because they're almost getting to extinction. They're becoming endangered because the numbers are going down, unfortunately, because of man, because of the trade for giraffe meat. Now in the world we have about 97,500 giraffes, so which is not a good number compared to few years that we had a big number of giraffes. So in a place like this where we have rangers on patrol on a daily basis, we are rest assured that the giraffes here are safe, covering the entire range from Masai Mara all the way down to Serengeti. So we have two ideas. Thank you, Roloff, for your question. A giraffe can live up to 22 in the wild, and sometimes in captivity they are not up to live up to 30. So it depends on the range, but I'd put them to be up to 17 years out in the wild. Females may live longer than the males because the male has to keep on fighting, fending for their territory. So we have an interesting behavior going on there. We have two females watching. Not quite sure if they can relate to these other ones. They look curious because there's one that went into a ditch. Oh, she went off. She was licking some soil there. There was some mineral there, which is a typical behavior for these giraffes. Sometimes you see them chewing bones. Sometimes you see them licking on the soil to add more minerals into their body. So they have to be cautious because she is in a ditch. So that can be vulnerable for her. So typical thing, they have to spread their legs to reach out on the ground, so making them exposed and vulnerable to predators. So you can see the other ones watching while the one walking in the ditch is slowly leaving the place. So she's not yet deciding what to do. I think these other ones might join in. There she goes. She wants to do it, but she's not quite sure how she's going to do it. You can see the rest of the giraffes joining in. So they've paused a little bit and they're going to walk out of the ditch. Probably not quite determined what to go about it.
All right, Lots of bird activity here at this waterhole this afternoon. A lot of sociable weavers. We have flocks of 20, 30 coming in. These bright yellow birds are yellow canaries. You can see from the very heavy conical beak, the bright yellow ones are males. And then you've got one that has a bit of a grayer or dull color format. Those are the females in the mix of things there. Beautiful glossy starling, that beautiful iridescent bird. And then the ones with the black caps, those are African red-eyed bulbuls, all coming down to the life-giving water. Very, very important source of water, not only for the birds, but as well as for various insects. We've been trying now for the past 5 minutes, and it is a great challenge to try and get some of these wasps that are coming down to the water to collect mud in order to create a nest chamber in which the female... We keep on trying to try and capture beautiful wasps coming down to this watering hole for a bit of activity. And how beautiful are those bluebirds, guys? Iridescence is what gives them that beautiful sheen. It's actually a reflective layer inside the feathers that actually bounces back the light. So it's not true color. You only get a few birds found within South Africa that have true pigment, true color, that they don't need light in order to be visually pleasing, let's say it that. Really beautiful. Mommy and Daddy Shelduck busy obviously giving me a bit of an alarm call here.
Well, maybe those alarm calls could not have reached here because this one bird from a distance, an oxpecker, gave a funny alarm call from a buffalo behind me, and this lioness shot up. Boop. But there's nothing of interest. Either the oxpecker was alarming because of this lioness. Now, two of them have gone flat. That one was also flat until now. And the only thing I can see from a distance, that's the other one there. See the one that missed the warthog. And I'm not sure whether you can hear from rain covers a bit of spitting going on. The last few days it has been very hot here in the Masai Mara. And it's strange because I thought we should be having a continuous showers every afternoon in our short trains. But apparently, for the last almost 1 week, we have had no rains. All right, those could be going for each other, but I think on a friendly sparring there. And one on the left has a stump of a tail, which you've seen a lot, not only in the elephants. The one lioness I was talking about earlier has also half a tail. I think this morning we had such a question from a viewer asking why we see so many animals in the Mara having short tails or rather half tails. And I think the answer I gave as my school of thought, it is because for genetic reasons, we have seen in particular herds of elephants, you might see 3 or 4 elephants in a herd like this having also the half tails. So this is all friendly, and I would guess these are 2 youngster boys, because when as adults, it's always a very big fight, and we have seen that happening on bulls when they'll be fighting over dominancy to control the females or to take charge of breeding for mating. Look at the beauty of the Mara and the Olar escarpment in the background there. Now, these elephants that had particular on the right moved one lioness towards the other 2 on the left. But I think currently they might have given up hunting for now. But maybe with the rains coming, the dynamics might change. Because the last kill they had was, I would say, 3-4 days ago, and it was a buffalo. and no chance of them going for a baby elephant. 0 chances. Not with these cows around. Look at the tusks of these elephants comparing to the very first herd that we saw. It was shiny, clean. This shows a bit of digging in this particular herd, because every herd is different. They'll have different habit, behavior. They'll feed in different locations. They'll drink water at different water points. And most likely, maybe they were digging something from the ground. And that's how the tusks look to be having lots of mud. And they must have been traveling or moving together. Renee, elephants are very matriarchal, as those two still keep entertaining us on that playful fight. Now, it's not very well defined to be patriarchal for the elephants. Elephants are mainly matriarchal, and you'll have one female being the leader of a herd. And in general, Renee is always the oldest female, in general, because she's very experienced. She has seen it all, she has done it all, and she has a better control or grasp of the family of the elephants. For the males, when they come to mate, it's always in the prime male, and sometimes you'll see the females deciding which male to mate with. And of course, once the females become in estrus, the males will very quickly pick it up. They'll come and smell their urine. And the first few days, you'll get the females becoming very uncomfortable, especially if they are young females and the first time that they'll be conceiving. And then whichever male that will be close by, sometimes the females will have no choice. He will definitely mate with them. But the very young bulls, the dominant males, the old ones, the strong ones, will not allow the youngsters to mate. Of course, that guarantees some good progeny in the herds of elephants. I would imagine there's a bit of communication going on. When they stop and they tend to freeze or they slow down in feeding, you'll get maybe the female or the matriarch passing some information to them. And they use lots of infrasound, very low frequencies. Now, my lioness is having been a bit flat and maybe not interested anymore into hunting. I think I'll just move on and swing around this area after a couple of minutes and find out what else I could find for you.
So from the elephants grazing, I think that today we have lots of valleys at this time of the day. So we have the grey crowned crane, or if you like to call it the Ugandan bird. I can see a mother and dad taking care of the young ones there. So these birds do a great parental job. So these are one of the birds that hard to identify whether it's a male or a female. So these two have been taking care of the young ones for a little while. So these birds are evenly distributed and mostly in Uganda. So they moved from the vulnerable species to an endangered species by the IUCN because they've become a menace to farmers. See the way they're picking on the grass. Sometimes when the fresh shoots where the farmers in the farmers' farmlands have grown up, these birds are very, very damaging. So they pick up the crop that is growing, which making it tough for the farmers. So the farmers have used sometimes pesticide to kill these birds. So I'm happy to see them out here in the wild because there's no harm here in the wild. Because no pesticide, it's just free range, and they can be living up freely however they want. So these two young ones can be vulnerable to jackals, even sometimes to hyenas. I've seen a mushroom eagle taking such kind of a chick there. So they pick the grass seeds there, and sometimes you can see them walking, and even the mom sometimes feeding the young one. See, the mom sometimes is watching over while the dad and the chicks are eating, so they take turns in watching over the babies. This is very beautiful to see, the crowned cranes. I like the sound they call when they are happy, which makes it very, very unique. The crane eats grass seeds, and sometimes they take the vertebrates that are on the grass and small insects. So they mix from grass and also vertebrates and small insects they pick from the grass. This is one very colorful bird. I think it's one of the most photographed birds that we have in Africa, second from the lilac-breasted roller. So photogenic. I like the way they walk in unison while feeding. And the parental care for these birds is so unique and very, very, very nice to see.
All right. And the activity of other animals along with the birds is really starting to increase now. We have two male or two bull rowan. So those are the two antelope with the black and white facial markings. And then something just gave him a bit of a scare. Obviously coming to a waterhole, you need to be very, very cautious. And I'm just talking really softly so that we don't disturb these animals coming to obviously the element that they need. There's another one on your right there, David. David's just going to zoom out for you guys and take a look how proud this one male is standing. It's just turning. Whoops. Well, so wildebeest have a tendency of freaking everybody out every now and then. The wildebeest turned around and he gave a little alarm call, basically a nasal snort. And then those two roan decided we need to get out of here. In the background, just coming through the bushes, there's an oryx as well. Just a bit to the left there, Dave. Oh no, he's just standing still. But everybody wanting to come down for a drink now. There's the culprit that caused the panic. Mr. Blue Wildebeest, that's also a bull. This is a bull which would have part of his core territory incorporated with this watering hole. The dominance of a bull and the strength is obviously direct influence on his territory that would be attractive motive for females to come in. So the stronger you are, the better your habitat is, or the available resources, and then that brings in all the ladies to the watering hole. And they can get quite aggressive sometimes, even chasing other antelope away. Beautiful oryx. In terms of adaptations, that oryx is very well adapted to withstand very, very hot temperatures. It's a special network of capillaries and blood vessels which run through the nasal cavity and actually trick a part of the brain into making the animal think it's cooler than it actually is. It's called the hypothalamus gland. And so if you think you're cooler than you are, you lose less water. The less water you lose, the less you have to obviously accumulate. But what a beautiful antelope. Long horse-like tail, straight horns, Males will be slightly shorter, a little bit thicker, and then they'll have a slight bend in the middle of them, whereas females will be almost dead straight. Oh, a lot of activity now. But how beautiful is this rowan? R-O-A-N, rowan. Really, really beautiful antelope. Forms part of the family, which is related to the Oryx, so the other antelope you just saw in picture, and as well as a very impressive antelope called the sable, and that black and white facial mask being a very, very important feature within this family group. Listening, smelling, looking for any predators, because this is where predators will be sitting and waiting. Because now when you come for a drink, you've got to put your head down, and that is when you're most vulnerable. Wow. Long ears, eh guys? Look how long those ears are. They're also used for a bit of visual communication. If the animal is having a standoff, it'll actually show aggressive posture with those ears. And it's a fairly hefty antelope. It's a ranking up with some of the heaviest antelope there are. The males can weigh anything between 260 and I've read up to about 300 kilograms, give or take. It's fairly fussy drink. He doesn't want to drink from the dam. I even took a sip there earlier. It tastes lovely. He wants a bit of cleaner water. If you take a look at different hooved ungulates, some of them don't like dirty water. Some of them will actually wade into the water to get the cleaner, fresher water within deeper parts of pans or watering holes. Imagine how good that must feel. After a long run or long walk, you get inside, grab a bottle of water, and it goes down like a homesick mole. That must be very, very nice for him. Momo asked a question there, how much water would a rowan drink? They are water-dependent rowan, so you won't find them very far from water. Roughly a couple of kilometers from water, but on average a day a rowan would consume anywhere between 8 and 10 liters of water a day. Ooh, the sociable we just took off and he has got a bit of a spook. So within a given day, 8 to 10 liters, and that obviously can be spaced out with a pair of 2 days. It's not to say that he'll have 8 to 10 liters every single day. You know, there could be other things happening around him and that could vary slightly, but 8 to 10 liters.
Back to the Mara again, we have a dagger boy, or if you like to call it the Bachelor boys right now. This is a very big bull, and I'd like to say that these bulls have already left the herd, so they'll be sticking around here by themselves for a little while, simply because they're aging and becoming old, so they can't keep up with the herd. I'd like to say the buffalo is one of the most successful grazer in Africa. It lives around the swamp and flooded plains, and sometimes you can see them in the savannah, like right now where they are. The one behind the first one is a very old guy. He's covered in mud. Seems like he was in a mud wallow. Now, when the buffaloes age, they tend to lose the fur on their body. So mud wallow will be efficient and more important for them because it keeps them cool and keeps them off from the biting bugs. So these bulls here have a defensive measure and will protect themselves from will-be predators like lions and sometimes hyenas who come and mob them and try to kill them. That is a very old grumpy boy. You don't want to come across this guy. So you can see he's chewing his cud. And if I look closely, his teeth are almost worn out. So that's why they like hanging around swamp, because the grass is soft and has a lot of water, which makes it soft for them to eat.
All right, guys, just something quite incredible that we've just spotted here. We've got a pair of dragonflies in a bit of mating ritual. And you'll see that one dragonfly will actually be attached to another one. And a male has a special appendage that actually latches onto the female so that she cannot be mated with again. And he ensures that she deposits his eggs. They are territorial over a patch or a spot of water. And once she's finished with his eggs and they're done with this beautiful ceremony, he will be very protective over that little patch, defending and protecting those little eggs. But really incredible to see. Look at that. So he has a special clasper at the end of his bum, and that basically holds the female at the back of there where they've separated now. Eh? So he's just landed on that little twig there. You got it?
Yeah. Come on in there.
Cool. Wow, that is very special to see. When it comes to insects, a body of water like this is a very important breeding ground, because once those eggs hatch, the larvae are actually ferocious predators. So they'll be swimming around. They look like little beetles, almost. Yeah, you can say like little beetles. And they've got huge interlocking jaws. And those jaws will be used to capture prey under the water. They spend a certain duration or period within this body of water, and then when they've accumulated enough resources, they will then obviously come out and then change form into an adult, what you're seeing in picture now. Check this one.
That's right. They'll change form as they grow. Now here, we got some two females that may want to change the feelings of a male ostrich here, because I think there's a bit of courtship going on here, and not sure if these two females are competing for this one male. There's a bit of dancing going on, more so on the two hens and not the male. And I'm wondering if whoever pleases the female, she's going to mate with him. They tend to drop their wings down, just shake them for a couple of seconds, and the whole idea is to get the attention of the male. But still, as they do that, they have to feed. But look at the male. He doesn't seem bothered or concerned. He keeps walking away like the one playing hard to get. So the female is trying to catch up with him and doing what they can to please him. Let's see whether any one of them is going to do the little dance. Now, I'm looking at the male, and during the breeding plumage, you'll always see their legs and necks getting very pink, which I do not see exactly that. And this is a little bit of it, but not as I would expect to see. So he hasn't gotten into that top condition. Still signs of breeding here. Trying to look also good to the females. But when in top condition and ready for mating, it's like top, pink, pink, pink. Both the legs, the neck, and sometimes all the way to the head. Get bloody necks and legs that if you'd have some sharp object, blood would just spat out. These two females have separated. Sometimes you'll get one of the hens being dominant, and this is the case here, is the dominant one that's going to mate with the male. Dosian, once in a while, we have seen females going for each other, but they have a very clear pecking order, Dosian, when it comes to mating. As I just said, the times you'll get one male with about 5 to 6 hens together, and the 6 hens will have some order of hierarchy. So the very top-ranking female is the one that is going to mate with the male, and that will be it. Unless then the second in command, he may mate with her, and once that's done, they'll always lay eggs. I've seen them laying like eggs. If they lay one today, the female lays one today, the day after, she doesn't lay another one. She lays an egg the day after, like every 2 days. And once they have the right number, during the day, looking at the color of the females, during the day is the hens that will incubate the eggs. And at night, the male will come in and give the female a break and maybe allow her to feed. And then the male will incubate the eggs. And they alternate that like almost every other night for the obvious reason of camouflage. Who wants to dance? Funny, that one looks like to have little white feathers to the left there. Because when they're all young, ostrich chicks, they all are grayish and brown, all of them, both males and female. And as they get older, they become more conspicuous. It's a bit strange because the left wing has quite a number of white feathers, which is rather unusual. Because that's not on the right wing. It's very strange there. Maybe more masculine hormones in her, because I would say to me she's a female. Strange to have the white feathers there. Maybe lots of testosterone hormones in this particular hen. But the other hen is in black and white, is a female, and nothing white on the one on your left of your screen. It would happen, I think for me, it's the very first time I've seen this. But I've known Antelope ostriches about 6 months. Sometimes you'll not tell when the chicks, males from females, they start fledging and getting the right plumage from the 7th, 8th month, because ostrich chicks grow very quickly. Omnivores, seeds, glass blades, fruits, insects, reptiles, anything they would catch. And I let them keep enjoying the foraging as I move on.
So from the largest or the biggest bird in the world, the ostrich, and flightless bird, we're coming here live to see the brown snake eagle, a very solitary bird and a master of taking down snakes. This bird has a buffy head and very broad feet, which is specially adapted for taking down snakes. Now, she is waiting there patiently because at this cool time of the evening or the day, some grass rats that are walking around on the grass might fall prey, and even snakes. I've happened to see once a snake eagle nest drop down on the ground, and we found the remains of a snake, which I was able to identify was a pafada. So you can imagine that kind of a snake being taken by such kind of a raptor. So this kind of raptor raises one eaglet. So that means you not see them in pairs, you only see them in singular form, where they roost up on trees at particular time of the day, trying to find something to eat. So if you're able to see, sometimes you see the buffy head, which sometimes deter them from being bitten by snakes and other small creatures. It's preening itself, a little time for cleaning. This snake has been here for a little while, and I'm sure she's spotted something. Now, it's reckoned that most birds that soar up in the air are able to trace the ultraviolet light from this urine scent or urine trail that is left by a rodent. How that happens, it's magical. So these raptors are very, very good at and well adapted for taking down such kind of rodents by checking on the trails. Sometimes you see the rollers or the starlings mobbing this kind of birds because they know they're danger to them, especially when they have the young ones. So in the forest line and the cover, you happen not to see very much, but I'm sure these starlings are also watching, knowing that the bird of prey there might be a threat, but not as big compared to the martial eagle. But these Ruppel's long-tailed starlings are keenly watching that snake eagle. See, that is preening herself. Ruppels or starlings are one of those birds that are able to chase away big raptors like that. But that snake eagle doesn't pose as a threat, so these starlings are easily and very much relaxed.
Welcome back to And Beyond Pinde, everybody, where we've come across quite a large herd of zebra and wildebeest who have just left a watering hole. There were apparently a pride of lions around here this morning, and we've come to see if we can't find them and stumbled upon this lot. Quite a windy afternoon, so quite nervous around the watering hole as they made their way down to drink. You can see them kicking up a bit of dust as they move away, but all now relatively relaxed. As they came down to the water, a little bit more sort of nervous and cautious, because with a pride of lions around, especially in the winter months when everything's so dry, they'll come around the watering hole. Not a bad spot for these lions to be, but we'll see while we're here if they don't pop up again. And good, thanks. How are you? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Brilliant. I'm not sure if you heard that, but someone has just let us know that those lions were behind us. Sorry. That was why we stopped there. So we'll see if we can't find those lions, and the next time you come to us, hopefully we've got something else in the picture.
We're at the site of the murder of the young Inyala. No sign of Kalamba, but lots of sign of a sleeping hyena. I'm sure this is Ndebele, the same hyena from this morning, and she's just heard all the elephants that are sneaking up, and they woke her up. You've been sleeping all day, haven't you? There's a huge herd of elephants coming into the drainage. So we've got 3 vehicles inside this drainage looking for Kalamba, and we can't find her. She'll be in the shade somewhere, and in true princess style, she's probably chosen the most trickiest drainage that the vehicles can't go all the way along. Oh, hello, Ndebele. You're going to look at those elephants. If you just look up here, Niels, you'll see the elephant. I don't think you can take down an elephant, Ndebele. I know you'd like to try. Ndebele is Pretty's daughter, Swazi's sister, and she's beautiful. Big, perfect ears. Still a sub-adult. Although really it's their birthday month. September is their birthday month, Ndebele and Swazi. But you can see she's a very small hyena. She's very petite. And the smell coming off this carcass, oh, is not pleasant. So it's probably too hot for Kalamba right now. So I think in a little while we'll possibly get up. She's watching the elephant, it's so sweet. We'll probably continue our search of the water holes and then come back a little bit later. There's just elephants everywhere today. It's fantastic. Summer's really on its way. We've not had the rains yet, as many of you know, but the rains are coming. And once the rains hit, we can say we're fully in summer. But luckily for the elephants, with their mixed diet, their diet completely does a U-turn in between seasons. They haven't had to shift so much this year. So Gremlin, you're asking how loud is the sound of a trumpet? I do not know, I'm afraid. You are welcome to try Google. I'm sure that one will know, but unfortunately I do not know. I think it differs between male and female. They do produce different sounds, but a trumpet I do not know, I'm afraid. I'm surprised they can't smell the carcass. They've got very sensitive nostrils, or turbinals, should we say, inside that trunk. And I'm really surprised they're not reacting to that smell. Elephants normally do, and they don't like it. Essentially, it's the smell of death. And Ndebele is still lurking behind the vehicle. She can smell it, that's for sure. I just don't know where Kalamba's gone. She's walking right past the car. Hello, my dear. She'll know exactly where Kalamba is, and that's what she's waiting for. She's waiting for the moment that Kalamba comes back and hopefully drops the carcass that's in the tree. See, she's smelling. Isn't she beautiful? She's drooling as well. Sorry, one more time, Londeka. I think we have an answer from Bianca that an elephant's trumpet is 117 something something. Decibels, maybe? DC, I'm gonna guess. Yes, 117 decibels. Oh, elephants, listen. Thank you, Bianca. The elephants are rumbling at something, but I'm not sure what it is. Probably each other. So we may stay here just a few minutes longer to see if our spotted princess appears, but if not, we'll move on.
Stations, Makulu Islami and Yari, crossing south.
Beautiful, this hyena is always something about them. It's always something unique. They're so beautiful and they're so passionate. They can wait under the trees for something to happen, even the killer's been hosted up in a tree. But here, what we just have come across is breeding herd of elephants, and I will only see a few of them here because, it's very densely bushes in front of them. It could happen that the rest of the herd have moved further away. But, it was very good of, seeing them just before they disappeared. And they don't look wet or anything. I believe that they haven't maybe went to the waterhole to drink yet. Which, if that's the case, then they still have to make their way down to drink. So this could be one of the female here, within this old group of elephants in this area. For now, that we can see. And could be that maybe she's one of the leader here. For now, where it happened is, you see, there was a young one there in the middle. They're all still busy, flapping these ears. So the temperature rise. So, when we started the drive here, it was anything about 34, degrees. And for Fahrenheit, there was pretty much higher temperature for elephants. So that makes them, flap their ears like that, pretty much. And they have such a very sensitive veins that, come across from the heart to the head sections. Of course, you look at this young one also busy. And so they're trying to cool themselves off. When the weather settle down and then it's not hot anymore, they will do less of this flapping of ears. But, everybody trying to get as much as possible grasses. Very browny, dry grasses out here. We just enter our raining season, but it's not yet been rained pretty much, so nothing turned to green yet. And this is what makes them forage through very thicket, possible for fresh grasses that grow under falling trees or under small bushes. And then, of course, they can mix with a lot of branches. And since they don't really mind, you see them push tree down for the roots. And if is that the case, and they need a lot of food a day, so it's for them to go down to drink. That's depending on how many water hole around in the area. So water stations, it's pretty much few of the water station around here. So for them to choose where to drink, if that's long way, and then they have to delay, or they have to be actually being controlled by the matriarch to move in other directions, and they have to follow her instructions. Nobody will left behind. If ever those left behind, also they'll be able to communicate, make sound. That sound sometimes can travel about maybe 10 kilometers away, 8 kilometers away. It's good that wherever the friends are, that particular lost one will be able to locate the rest of the herd. It seems past 11 years old. That's negative. They don't bleed at all. So, and even a young one, their skin is sensitive because just they're younger, but, they won't bleed unless if they have kind of like a scratch mark, which that happens if they've been pushed so hard by the bigger one, then they run into kind of very sharpening stump of log, of course, scratch them. But, their skin is very rough. So we'll leave these elephants to do their thing and move on, search for other animals as well.
And we're on Pinde, everybody, where we've had a little bit of luck this afternoon. We managed to find those lions that were seen in this area. They've tucked themselves away in quite a nice, well, somewhat of a shady and sheltered spot in terms of sheltered from this wind. Nice and shady, you see on the backside of this mound here to their right-hand side. Those youngsters have been suckling since we found them, and I think they've now had their full since then. Looks, that one that's resting its head on Mom's back is now finished. The other one, who Craig was just on, has just gotten up and walked back past that other lioness that you see there. Oh, maybe it's suckling again. But it was just now resting its paw on Mom, on her belly, and trying to sort of leverage and get her in a comfortable position. And it sounded like there was a little bit of a growl from one of the older lionesses, maybe sharp teeth getting a little bit too much, or just being full of energy, got in one of those lioness's ways and reacted to the youngster. There we are. There's a little bit of movement behind that belly of Mom, but they're in a really good area. I mean, you saw just now we were with that big herd of zebra and wildebeest, a couple of impala also walking towards that watering hole back in the black cotton soil of the dried up watering hole behind us. I mean, they've got options. The lioness on the right now is showing a few signs that she's going to start getting a little bit more active. You can see her grooming herself. Maybe the odd yawn again, that shock of oxygen to the brain might mean they move off. And those youngsters, because their bellies are full now, they'll probably leave them and are able to set off themselves and see if they can't hunt in the vicinity. I mean, just looking around us now, there are plenty of options in terms of food for them. Nice big old yawn there, those impala that we were talking about, the black cotton soil. The wind's in their favour. The wind's coming from those impala towards us. Although there are quite a few eyes in a herd of impala, maybe not something that they'd actively look to hunt, but that little bit of there is a little bit of water in a pan just up and over to the right-hand side from where these lions are lying now, in the direction that those impala are walking towards. So here's this lioness. She's now up. They're actually lying on quite a prominent game trail. I wonder if they won't move further out into the open. Not uncommon for them to go into the open. Maybe she's just going to the toilet now, a little bit further away from everyone else. That's exactly what she's doing. I know you're asking why lions have different colours. Mainly just genetics. You might see some male lions, their manes are slightly darker than others, but that's all in the genetic makeup. These ones are all that sort of general tawny colour. As they get older, maybe that gets a little bit lighter, but I mean, they're not. You might find like an Angala with Eric and those guys up there. You might have seen a couple of those leucistic, so that's a recessive gene that the males carry, is why they're white. So in terms of different colours, they are a little bit more pale than these ones. But I'm going to stick around here and see what these lions get up to this afternoon.
So from the lions down at Pinda, we live here in Masai Mara with the Marsh Pride, one of the females with two of her youngsters. Now, they've been moving around here, and I think they want something to eat. Over in the distance, I can hear an impala alarming. So the impala is snorting because there's lions around here. But the female here is not even keen to watch over the impala because she can see buffaloes and zebras over in the distance. So these youngsters, they've come to an age where they can at least accompany mom for a hunt. This is the best time for mom to at least try and assist and teach them how to hunt. See, she's looking out keenly. It's about to rain, and at this time of the day, when it's almost raining, it's the best time for the lions to hunt, or most predators, because the smell of rain, most predators will prefer this, and the prey will actually not get the scent or pick up the smell of the predators. So she's very much relaxed, knowing that soon she might be on the prowl trying to find something to eat. Now that youngster knows that mom is going to do a good job. She's very much relaxed. Oh, there's some insects and flies disturbing him. Very much relaxed, cooling off the stomach. While this impala is still snorting, they're ignoring that impala. I'm not sure whether the rest of the pride is around, but I know definitely because she has big youngsters, she's been kept away by the rest of the pride who has 4 little teeny tiny ones. Now, when lions have small cubs, they isolate themselves from their entire pride because of the playful games that the youngsters will play, and sometimes they might harm the young ones. Now, mom is annoyed of the impala, and I think it's time to move on. Okay? Oh yeah, lie down a little bit. See the youngster grooming mom. That is a very good bond that lions do. It's called allo grooming, which enhances the bond between predators, especially the lions. I think it's a little bit windy and more flies around there. So that is why mom changed her position. Now this one is waiting for mom to signal her for the next move. Now, we're going to wait here for a little while to see what the next move will be.
Yeah, definitely. I think the temperatures have gone down considerably here in the Masai Mara, and that will make the cats maybe or the lion to start moving. As we got one very tall stock here, preening herself. And I'm saying her because looking closely at her ears, or rather eyes, they look to me yellow. And if they're yellow, then this is a female. The males will have dark brown eyes, and they'll have a better close-up and confirm she's a female. And this is the sandal-billed stock. And of all the stocks we got in the world, or maybe, let me say in Africa, to me, this is the most beautiful one. Beautiful, colorful. And you can see how many colors she got. Yes, it's definitely a she. She's looking at a distance, and I think she can see some clouds, and she's also listening to some thunderstorms. We have had about 5-6 days now in the Mara without any rains. And I thought we had the onset of the short rains in Kenya. Then all of a sudden they stopped. But look at the clouds Just listen. It's a huge storm there, a huge wall of rain. But that was the southern part of the Mara Triangle. It's quite a distance from where I am. But to me, still, that looks very beautiful. Just listen to the thunderstorms. Backdrop of the Oryx escarpment there. So further down that direction is the Serengeti National Park in Tanzania. That should be our western horizon. The sun will set. Hopefully, we'll have a colorful sunset today. The weather pattern in the Mara has been quite erratic in the last couple of years. But in general, annually, we get about 1,000 millimeter rainfall. In general, I would imagine the years you get a little bit more or a little bit less, but the average is about 1,000 millimeters. These storks, in general, they're very solitary. They only see one at a given time. But occasionally, you might see two, but that's always during the breeding time. Unlike most storks associated with water for feeding, look at her long legs, and where I would say the ankles will bend, you can see like the skin is wrapped off. Rosemary, yes, you say you love the scene. Many thanks. I mean, from that scenery of the clouds and the Oryx escarpment and having this beautiful stock here with water, Rosemary, I agree with you. The Mara, or Africa in general, beautiful, especially in the conservation areas. Look at that, Rosemary, again. Always seeing a silver lining. I'm not sure whether, Rosemary, you can hear the thunderstorms going on. I just want to sit here and listen to the thunderstorms for a couple of minutes.
Ndebele here has decided to fall asleep right in front of our vehicle. We cannot go back, we cannot go right, and we cannot go left. So our only option is to watch this gorgeous hyena sleep and smell the delicious aroma of she's back. Tlalamba's back. Okay, I'm not sure we're going to get a view right now, and I can't go forward because of Ndebele, but if she climbs a tree, we might. Now, Ndebele and Swazi were born in September 2018. So they're both 2 years old this month. And males are generally said to be sort of reproductively active, sexually mature at 2. So that means that Swazi's in his prime now. And yes, it's a good month for Swazi. He's becoming a man. But Ndebele is a little bit different for females. They said to become sexually mature at 3. So Ndebele is still quite young here, and she's not quite classified as an adult. You can see that in her size. And she came from a high-ranked mother. Pretty was high-ranking, second from the top, underneath Corky, which is unusual because Pretty's mother was Madam, and Madam was the matriarch. So that scenario was very unusual. Now, Tlalamba's back. We're going to maneuver here and see if we can get a view. Stations, Tlalamba's back at the kill.
Beautiful, So we just arrived in this treehouse dam, and what we're seeing here, it's a water monitor lizard. It's busy looking up in the sky. We also heard a fish eagle calling out, but maybe that's not a case. It's that because it's on its hunt, but for safety as well. Only eagle can take them. We've seen marshall eagles good at it. Leopard as well. I can deal with such a lizard like this. But this is a water monitor lizard. There's a land a lizard, which is a rock monitor lizard that you find in a dry land, and of course different colorations. These are a lot grey, with look at this tail, and this is actually also a long tail as well. But if you go to the left, also you see the Hammerkop near it. Not near it, but Hammerkop, it's also doing its hunt around this waterhole. So yeah, we're just gonna see what happened.
And she's back. Our princess is back up the tree on the Inyala kill. It's a young Inyala. We've not got the best view right now, but it's going to take us a little while to maneuver. It looks like our head is in that hole in the tree, but it's not. So because it was just too hot, she was full. She'll be panting. It was becoming uncomfortable. It's been uncomfortable for everyone today, actually, the heat. So I imagine she just found a shaded spot somewhere here. And now that it's starting to get much cooler and there's a nice breeze coming through, she's back again. She's probably made space in that tummy. She's eyeballing in the belly right now. Oh, she doesn't like the hyenas. But the hyenas like the leopard. And going back to communication, I have this wonderful example for you that I love. And it's not exactly about leopards, but it's completely applicable to leopards as well. And it involves a wonderful coalition of cheetah. And I just love their name. They're 3 boys, and they're known as Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn. I was an Aragorn girl myself, or Strider, whatever you want to call them. But cheetahs are very similar to leopards in that they're felids. Yes, cheetahs don't belong to Panthera. They're not classified as one of the big cats. And their sort of lifestyle's different. Male leopards don't form coalitions, but it's a very sort of similar story in terms of how they communicate through scent. So these 3 cheetahs, Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn, they normally stayed together. They were a very tight-knit coalition. And one day, Aragorn broke away. And he spent the next 31 days on his own. That's a really, really long time. And a day before these animals met up again, they were still 9 miles apart. I don't quite know what that is in kilometres. My brain works in miles in the UK, but it's far apart. And eventually, they just converged. They just met up again. And the question remains, how on earth did that happen? She does not like in the belly. Because cheetahs normally spend about 2 days apart on average, and that's it. So 9 miles apart the day before and 31 days of absence. How does that work? And as you know, cheetahs don't saw like leopards. They've not got that raspy, hoarse vocalization. They don't roar. They have sort of really soft, chirpy vocalizations. Are definitely not roary. I don't know if that's a word, but I'm going to roll with it. And they were definitely not using any verbal signals, because that sound would not travel. Their voice box is very differently designed, if you like, to a leopard. Now, cheetah do have really good eyesight. They use their eyesight to hunt. It's very, very sharp, and it can cover great distances with a great depth of field. But, I mean, over 9 miles, I really don't think the cheetahs are going to spot one another. So scientists looked into this situation, and it was all through scent. They were leaving cues for one another, navigational cues. They've split up. They know they split up. They know that they need to reunite. So they leave scent marks everywhere so that they can follow each other. So maybe it was a bit of a combination of communications once they got closer, but they were able to reunite over a huge area through scent. Isn't that incredible? That's how powerful it really is. And I think the paper said that the chance of these animals randomly sort of bumping into one another was less than 1%. So we can definitely rule that off the list. We can rule eyesight off the list. Vocalizations of the list. It was all through scent that they were able to find each other again. And that's how powerful these odors are. Even for Tlalamba, she doesn't have a coalition. She doesn't have a girl army, but her scent is powerful. And it's necessary. She's sawing now, she's scent marking, leaving that penetrable odour fence all around the area to tell everyone, this is my territory now. Stay away or beware. And male cheetahs use completely different spatial tactics than male leopards, but still it's an important example of how powerful chemical cues, at least in the realm of the cats, really is. She's panting, she's still hot. And I think Tristan mentioned this earlier. We've been having lots of discussions about this princess because she's staying in the same section of the Mowati. She really doesn't seem to be sort of roaming far anymore. Considering she used to spend all her time up in Buffelshoek and we hardly saw her, she's now here. All the time in this sort of section of the Mowati. Very interesting behaviour. Janet Tlalamba's going to be 3 in November, so she's just 2 months short of 3. She was born in 2017. And normally they do say the sort of age of 3 for a female leopard is pivotal. That's when they should have really established their territories, and that's when... Over to something exciting.
Look at this. Late afternoon and a brown hyena. Myself and Dave were just sitting here very quietly, and Dave just pointed in front of me, and this brown hyena just walked straight in front of us. I am shaking right now. Oh my word. It's really, really special to see this animal. Very shy and very elusive. Wow. Looks like there's a little bit of blood around his neck. Wow. So I think our viewers would remember this chap if you take a look at the front of his nose. He's got a little piece of his nose that's broken. Very old and very tattery. Definitely sustained a few injuries. You can see the nose is actually broken in the middle, and that's that hanging piece that we're seeing. Absolutely incredible. Very thirsty. Oh my word. Magical, guys. Look at this animal. I just want everybody to focus on the size of this animal's head. They have very, very powerful jaws, and the head is a very important component to attach massive muscles that push up the jaw. They have the bite force of over 1,000 pounds per square inch. Slope back, very small hindquarters, massive forequarters. It shows you if you sit and wait how incredible everything is. Everything just happens around you. If you have the patience to sit and wait and just be patient. I mean, everything doesn't run at the same pace that we are. I hope you guys enjoy that. That was incredible. Oh my God.
She's really feasting away up the tree here, Miss Tlalamba. I'm just going to turn my game drive video down. Now we're down in the Mowati, so we're looking up at her. which is quite an interesting angle, actually. I can't quite remember what I was saying before, but it was something to do with their age, and the age of 3 is very pivotal for a leopardess. They normally have fully sort of set up their territories by that age, and that's when they really can mate with success. Now, you can see female leopards sort of coming into estrus and mating long before that, at maybe 2.5 years, but the age of 3 is said to be the sort of important year. And their first mating and their first raising of a litter is said to be influenced by not only physiological factors about the area she's in, but also social factors. That all affects when a female is going to mate and successfully raise her first litter. You've got to establish residency in an area, and that's not as easy as it sounds. It's not just a case of calling and scent marking and making it your area. You've got to navigate. You've got to understand who's your neighbours, what's the threat. Where does everyone move? Where does Shadulu move? Where does Mama Tandy move? Where does Sabui come in? You've got to sort of navigate the entire landscape before she really establishes her territory in the area. And within this territory, she's got to be able to have secure access to resources for pregnancy, lactation, and cub rearing. They're extremely energetically costly for a leopardess. It's not just a case of going through the pregnancy. It's then lactating and then rearing the cubs for almost 18 months to 2 years. Depending if they're males or females. And therefore, she must have a territory that gives her access to water, fresh, clean water that's reliable all year round, and a plentiful supply of food. Not populations that are not stable, populations that are stable all throughout the year. And if you think of Juma Game Reserve, you've got impalas all year round. And then you will have the lambs, and you will have calves of other species of antelope. I think she's actually been snacking on this all throughout the day, because I heard there was a lot left, but there's really not so much left anymore. So she's really tucked into this meal. It's like a mini Tungana eating. A petite, dainty little Tungana. Indabelli's also up at the bottom, if that makes sense. She's awake, she's alert, hoping that something falls into her jaws. Relaxing, and no, I imagine it's just stuck on a branch, or I'm not actually quite sure. We've not got the best view, but I think it's hoisted over a branch. But she's really tugging it, isn't she? And it's not moving. So I think it's firmly perched using the glue that only leopards know on that tree. They're remarkable at positioning a carcass. And one of the most incredible sightings I had was with Tandy and her son. And he was digging in. He had no awareness that the carcass could fall. He's not learned yet. He's not had that experience where he's killed successfully, hoisted successfully. We're being told to go away by a go-away bird. And then dropped it and lost it to the hyenas. A wasted time, wasted effort. He's not experienced that. And when he does, he'll learn. So he was tucking into the meal, but Tandy, she knew this is going to fall, because he's messing everything up. So she held onto it firmly with her jaws and her claws and made sure that it didn't fall for her son, which is one of the most tender moments I've seen, especially with Tandy. So they learn as they go. Klalamba's made mistakes too. And that's how she knows she's got to firmly glue it onto the tree so that it doesn't fall. Because if it falls, the jaws of Indabelli are very much waiting. And once the hyena has it, boom, they will run. It's gone. Kalamba wouldn't chase. She would let it go. Can you hear her crunching the bones? There you go. And the belly got that, whatever that was, I'm not sure. And that's exactly why hyenas wait, everyone. They might not get the entire carcass, but leopards can be messy. Things will drop. Gravity will take hold. They always get something. Be it a leg, be it a tiny piece of bone. Hyenas always get something when a carcass is hoisted like this. Oh, she's hot. Kalamba, you are so beautiful. So Niels and I are not going anywhere. We are going to sit and enjoy the princess.
As the leopard is munching away the carcass, we're here watching the buffaloes munching this very sweet red oat grass. Now these buffaloes, the bachelors or the dagger boys here, have closed the gap and walked close to where the lions were. So the lions moved into the thicket where you can see the forest line there, full of the African green heart. So lions especially don't like associating themselves or getting close to buffaloes. Buffaloes can be mean. And with that mom raising the youngsters to about 2 years old, I'm sure she's not going to waste any chance to lose her cubs. Now, these dagger boys will hang around this area because it's about to rain. We can feel the weather, and actually some parts of the Mara, just behind the bushes there, or the tree line, it's raining. And I'm sure tomorrow, fingers crossed, this area will be wet and the grass will be lush and soft, lots of water. So these buffaloes, or most of the time buffaloes, need water. They need a regular drinking. So this will be sufficient for them, especially after the rains. So the grass will be locked in with water. So as they're moving in closely where the lions are, the lions will take another route to evade these buffaloes. You can see they're about 4 in number, which makes them aggressive even more, defending themselves. Now over to the other side we have a very interesting bird, the southern ground hornbill. The ground will... Come on, buddy, I'm not gonna hurt you. Shying off from the camera. So this bird also is walking around trying to find some dung beetle, some insects, especially at this time of the evening. Even snakes. I've seen them swirling, the green grass snakes. Now these birds are almost endangered and the population number is going down. The southern ground hornbill. So that one there is a female. We have a pair walking closely, and I'm sure they're choosing a good tree or where they'll roost for the night. Now, closely there we have the grey heron, which flew past. I'm sure the heron is just afraid of this ground hornbill. Back to our buffaloes, and also we can see the male walking slowly. These birds form a very good pair, and they closely walk and watch over when they have the chicks. So they're very, very keen, especially when you see, oh, got something there. Lost it. It was a dung beetle. So whenever they find a place to roost, they'll be there for the entire night. And these birds mostly cover the ground walking around. But they're known to fly, but often you see them walking on the ground because they flush out insects and sometimes even snakes. So that is the reason why you see them walking on the ground mostly.
It looks like a wing that she's feasting on. She's really grasped it in her right paw. And she's still remarkable at balancing. I would have keeled over by now. Now I know Kalamba mating is the hot topic on everybody's lips, including Tristan and I's. I think she most likely has mated. No one's seen it though, but from the signs, but it's been remarkably quiet. I don't know if that's because of Mulwati, but it has been. And if you think you're a lone female leopardess navigating this landscape alone, you've not got a pride, you've not got a coalition mate, you've not got a clan or a pack, you are completely alone. Sometimes daddy comes and steals, but other than that, you are on your own. Mama doesn't cater for you anymore. That was long ago. Kalamba was forced to independence about 18 months, and she's now almost 3. So not only has she got to establish her territory, make sure she doesn't encounter any other females or males, set up residency, establish herself, continue to hunt, to grow and get bigger and get stronger. She's also got to then find a mate. Sorry, this is rather gruesome, Kalamba. I think you're right. It maybe is glued on the tree. I apologize. Resident Inn, I think your name was. It's glued. One of the best sightings I had with Kalamba was when she took a tantrum because she could not get the diker off the tree. It was stuck. She took a huge tantrum. So as we watch her feast, I'll continue what I was saying. So she's got to find a mate, and that involves communication. She's got to communicate to all the males in the area that she's receptive. So if you think about courtship in any sort of animal, any organism, they have different ways of doing it. So fireflies will flash, frogs will ribbit, 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 chorus. Crickets will chirp. From insects, amphibians, they all have their own way of doing that. Now for Kalamba, she's got to avoid clashing with any female. She's got to avoid drawing too much attention to herself, but she's also got to be territorial, advertise her territory ownership, and let the males in the area know that she's ready to mate. So when females approach estrus doesn't just mean this sort of ovulation cycle. Of course, that's part of it when she's ovulating, but she also will have to show behavioural receptivity. She's got to be receptive to mating, to copulation, you call it. It can't just be the onset of estrus, and she will indeed release chemicals from her urine. And certain volatile scents, volatiles means that it evaporates really quickly, volatile scents will come from her genitalia as well. So when the males check her, they'll do the good old flaming grimace that looks rather bizarre, and he will immediately know this is a female in estrus, and not only is she in estrus, she's receptive. Now, not only will she be leaving chemical signals, she vocalizes a lot more when she's coming into estrus. She's sawing, she's trying to let the males know that I'm ready, I'm coming into estrus. It's a biological drive, it's an urge. Now, if nothing happens, she's not encountering any males within her territory, which is quite rare. Females then do move out with their territory to seek a male, which is rather risky because most likely you're going into another female's territory. But as soon as you find that male, be it Mulwati, Tingana, Hukamuri, you're protected. That male will protect you during your courtship. But it's risky until you meet the male. Now, normally a male's territory holds numerous females, minimum 3. So if you think of Tingana, his old territory as we knew it had his daughter, Tlalamba, who was much younger, Tandi, Shidulu, Luna, Ikanyeni, Kuchava. He had access to lots of different females. So normally females don't have to leave their territory, but they absolutely will if they have to. So Tlalamba's got a lot in front of her. It's definitely not easy, the life of a young leopardess.
Welcome back, everybody, to And Beyond Pinda. We're just talking about not having an easy life. We've come across these 3 sub-adult males. You can see one picture going to greet its mom and its other brother. But these 3 definitely have quite a tough life up ahead of them, especially now that they're starting to get to that age where the big male who's just left of this individual, can't see him at the moment, but he might come out into the open just now as well. He's actually going to chase the 3 of them out of this pride. At around 18 months, 2 years old is when he'll do that. Then the 3 of them will go off and be nomadic for, let's say, the next 2.5, close to 3 years. With 3 of them being 3, the odds of them making it by are actually quite good. And then a coalition of 3 is, so the odds are actually in their favour when it comes to taking on the 2 dominant male lions of this particular part of the reserve. But for now, they're quite content to stick around with the rest of the pride. Meals will be provided from their mums. And you can see now that it's a little bit cooler. Today was a really hot day. Come out into the open, just exploring the surrounds of this particular area. This is where we filled them a couple of weeks ago. And they've actually ended up in the same spot, but with all the members of the pride. 3 older lionesses, one of the moms with the 2 youngsters that we saw earlier, one of the moms with these 3 sub-adult males, and one of the big dominant male lions, who I see now is up and is walking slowly but surely towards us. So I think if we sit patiently, he will eventually show his face. I'm going to just reposition quickly to see if we can't get a view of him walking to join the rest of the pride. Just a little bit further up ahead, I'll turn off to the side, but if you keep looking off to our left, might see now as he comes out of the woodlands.
Alright, just while we wait for the lion to come out the woodlands, I can't still believe, guys, if we got to see that brown hyena. Absolutely amazing. But a very beautiful bird, and a bird that's commonly overlooked. How is that reflection? Beautiful, David. Absolutely fantastic. This is a ring-necked dove. It's just taken off. And there's its distant cousin, a laughing dove. Hence the name laughing dove. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Its call somewhat resembles that of a laugh. Beautiful soft pink around the throat and chest, and that nice slate grey colour around the wings. Really beautiful bird, and commonly overlooked by guys very quickly because they're so abundant, but very, very beautiful. So we've had a few species come in here. We're hoping that we're going to get a few grouse that come into the watering hole, and then we would love to show you guys sandgrass here on Tswalu. They're really amazing birds. Just come to the other side here, David.
Which one?
On the right here, just right with the pan. Yeah. There's 2 Namakwa doves. Oh, there goes the male. There's another little dove species, very well adapted to arid areas.
Right, so we can't see that one now. Okay. But what a beautiful setting we have here right now. The wind's died down a bit. The water's got a beautiful reflection to it. A lot of bird activity, and we're having little drips and drabs of antelope coming in for a drink, a much needed drink. But a very, very beautiful setting. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. It's really, really a privilege to have everybody with us. It's very special to be able to share this with everybody.
Now we've just repositioned to the other side, so we've now got the sun hitting her, the setting sun. She's got that golden light on her golden coat, which is beautiful. I think it's a little bit of an easier angle for us all. And there you go. You can see how the carcass is glued. Let's take a closer look, Niels. That's how she's done it. You're such a star, Kalamba. She's hoisted it over that thin branch. It's not very pleasant to look at, I know, but it's intriguing to know how she managed to keep it nice and stuck there. Look at those teeth. You see she's crunching through bone here. If some of you are squeamish, this is probably not ideal, but this is how she actually cleans her teeth. Like cleans like. So by her crunching through bone, it's actually assisting in cleaning her teeth. There's another vehicle next to us, just in case you can hear any voices or cameras. Now, an interesting concept I wanted to sort of bring up, just because it's interesting. It doesn't necessarily mean that it applies to leopards, but I've been reading a lot about it, and I just thought I would share it with you because it is so fascinating. So, in some studies of various different mammals, sub-adult females that have not fully classified as adults remain in really close contact with their male relatives. And I feel Kalamba very much did this with her father, Tingana. They stayed in very, very close. It's Corky. They've got corks lying in front of the car. I wondered who that bottom belonged to. And Kalamba did this for a very long time. I'm not sure about now because, of course, we rarely see Tingana, but there's a theory that females that are still very much within their father's territory, we call this philopatric females, they're actually able to postpone the onset of their estrus or their reproduction until their fathers are ousted from the territory and they come across unrelated males. So they call this delayed primiparity. Now, I'm not saying that this applies to leopards, please don't get me wrong, but it's a fascinating concept that does apply to some mammals. As long as a young female is within her father's territory who's still dominant, they will do something called delayed primiparity, and they will sort of delay the onset of reproduction because it's biologically preventing inbreeding. Isn't that fascinating? But it's not been proven for leopards. I think we'll give everyone a view of Corks. I think it's Corks. She's just in front of the vehicle. Julie in the tree. Not many, actually. Hyenas cannot climb. Unfortunately, I know that they wish they could. I think this is Corky. She's got an injury on her elbow there. Scavenging birds can come in. your eagles, your vultures, they can definitely come in and tree, but they don't always see it. Most of the scavenging birds are aerial scavengers, which means they rely on their eyesight, and they might not see this carcass. They're not relying on their sense of smell. She looks very skinny, whoever this hyena is. I think that's just a scar. It does look like corks. Waiting on a good meal. And of course, through weathering, wind, and breakdown of the carcass, it can eventually fall. And as soon as it falls, it then goes to all the terrestrial scavengers. But Kalamba will try and finish it for sure. I don't think she realizes she's hooked it on so well. She keeps yanking it. So I think we're just going to reposition a little bit because there's another vehicle here, but we're going to still stay with our gorgeous spotted cat.
Welcome back, everybody, to NBN Panda, where the more experienced members of this pride of lions, I say that there's one at the back trying to bat away a fly, but that lioness, the mom of these three youngsters, big old yawn there, all slowly but surely starting to show more signs of them getting a little bit more active this afternoon. You can see that one at the back, that male keeps sort of flicking his head and eyes grooming, and so is the lioness, but they were actually biting at trying to snap at flies just now, which is quite amusing to watch. Now doing a little bit of grooming, those really sort of sandpaper like tongues that will help get rid of ticks and things like that. Maybe there's other things on their fur if they managed to catch something last night. Being such a big pride, they have to hunt quite regularly. All now starting to wake up. That male lion that I was talking about hasn't come out of his hiding place just yet. Maybe a little bit camera shy this afternoon. He's off to the left. Another big old yawn. In saying that, I mean, they could show signs of getting active, but then they could get up and just flop back down in a little bit more of a comfortable position. You can see this one is in and out of consciousness now after that yawn. All of those things that we saw earlier around the watering hole, the zebra, the wildebeest, the impala, have all disappeared now. It is still quite windy this afternoon, so they've maybe ventured off to more sheltered woodlands where they can just hear a little bit better on an afternoon or evening like this, especially with a pride of lions like this lurking around. That lioness at the back now, almost completely on her back with her paws in the air. Every now and again you just see it. There's a flick of the paw there. Just tails and ears at the moment that you see a little bit of reshuffling going on that I spoke about. Look at the size of that paw and those teeth of these youngsters. Scruffy sort of manes and mohawks at this stage of their lives, still being relatively young. Playtime with mum, if she tolerates that at all, or if she gets up and moves away. Not sure if you heard that now, but off to our right-hand side, you won't be able to see them. They're lying almost below, quite a bit further below where we are, is the lioness and the two really small youngsters. And I think it was one of the youngsters was trying to greet one of the older lionesses, but not its mom, and it reacted to that youngster. But it's now returned to its mom, who's a little bit more forgiving and happy to do a little bit of grooming this evening. Those male lions now, where they choose to lie, they lie on top of each other. There's all the space in the world, but they choose to lie on top of each other. Oh, mom baring her teeth at the youngsters. The alarms, or distant alarms behind us of a crested francolin, maybe they've seen these lions now lying on the road. The youngsters are fairly exposed, lying out where they are. But in this dried up grass, incredibly well camouflaged. I mean, it's just, if they turn away from us, you might see the pink of the inside of their mouth. If you're lucky, if you get a yawn, but the black spots there you see now on the back of their ears, or the black tip of their tails, if anything in this long grass. I mean, if they're lying flat, I'll let you in on a little bit of a secret. Myself and Craig drove straight past this last on our way in here this afternoon. We didn't see them at all, just because they were lying flat in this long grass. And when we came back a little bit later, they were lying out in areas that were a little bit more open. But yeah, maybe just trying to soak up the last little bit of the sun as it sets off to our west. A little bit more reshuffling going on here. You can see them rubbing heads together with their moms, just cementing those bonds that they have between one another. I'll keep quiet now. Not sure if you can hear that, but that's all them greeting one another, grooming one another now. And it's not something that you get to hear very often, because lions typically are fast asleep for the majority of the day. Have a look at that, where they're three heads together. That's very special. Mom, no, she's had enough. And with all of this going on, you'd think that maybe that big male lion would come and get in on the action, but I think he's quite happy to where he is. He doesn't really tolerate these sub-adult males now coming to greet him and butt heads with him. So he is quite content, but I'm really hoping that this evening he comes out to the rest of the pride.
She's managed to unhook or unstick or yank it a little bit. We have also moved position as well, but she's slowly pulling that carcass closer and closer to her. Look at the scapula, look at that shoulder blade. We just go up a little bit, Niels, you see that pointy, sharp shoulder blade. Leopards have far more muscles in their scapula than humans do, because we don't climb trees, or we try to, but most of us are not very good at it. I like to think I'm good at it, but I'm not. James Hendry's semi-good at it. But all in all, we're not meant to climb trees. We don't need to hoist our dinners, our bangers and mash, or our pizzas. We don't need to do that. So leopards have massive shoulder blades, we call them scapulas, and there's so many muscle attachment sites, way more than we have in most other mammals. Now we're obviously looking at the African leopard, clearly, because we're here in Africa. But there's 9 different subspecies. So it's the same species as Panthera pardus, but 9 different subspecies. Let's see if I can do this. Okay. There's the African, the Indian, the Sri Lankan. I've managed to see the Sri Lankan ones in Yala National Park. The Persian, the Amur, up in the sort of Russia, northern China border area, the Javan, the Arabian, and I'm missing one. Ah, yes, the North Chinese leopard. So there's 9 different subspecies. Subspecies are the same species, but they are based in different geographical locations. So they may have sort of adaptations or unique specializations that are slightly different from each other to give them the advantage to survive and thrive in that particular geographical location. Tristan and I were actually discussing Kalamba can be a very difficult cat to find and then follow. Can you imagine when she has cubs? no, she absolutely would not give it to the hyena. They are not friends. In fact, they 100% dislike each other. So it will only drop by accident. Otherwise, leopards will just leave it in the kill to rot and biodegrade. There is no way, shape, or form that she would give it to the hyena, Corky or Indabella. She's not friends with any of them. They have a mutual dislike for one another. Although technically speaking, that's not correct, because the hyenas do like the leopards. They follow them all day long. And I am convinced, I wish I could get the sort of resources to prove this by doing a study. I am convinced that the hyenas know exactly who they're following. They can recognize not only all members within their clan individually, but they can recognize every single leopard individually. So Corky will know she's following Tingana. Obviously, she will not know him as Tingana, but she'll know him as a dominant male leopard. She'll know when she's following Kalamba, Shudulu. I'm convinced they can recognize the leopards individually. I have no way of proving that at the moment, but I'll find a way. I think the dynamics between leopards and spotted hyenas in the Sabi Sands is incredible. It's really incredible. And that's why the hyenas do follow the leopards. You know, hyenas are my absolute favourite animal, but I guess you could go as far as calling them lazy with regards to they don't hunt here. Nowhere, well, they do hunt, but nowhere near as much as they do in other areas, especially places like the Masai Mara. And that's because they can always get an easy meal from the leopards. It's actually not lazy, it's extremely resourceful and intelligent. So we're going to try and stay with Miss Kalamba as long as we can.
All right, good afternoon, Mr. Oryx. It's really interesting what he's doing here. You will see that right in front of him. It looks like a white rock. That is a mineral or salt block, because if you look at the interior of South Africa, there's actually, especially in this section, there's actually a shortage of valuable minerals and elements that these antelope need. And those salt blocks are there for obviously the antelope to accumulate these required elements. Back in the day, the antelope would have migrated towards the coast where you would have had a higher deposit of minerals. But unfortunately now, in this modern age where we have farms blocking migratory routes, we have to put out salt blocks like this, or mineral blocks, for these antelope. It also allows them to break down rougher material when we come through very dry, lean times. So it aids in digestion, but then also very important elements for the healthy function of these antelope. You can see from the shortness and the thickness of the horns, this is a male. Females generally like to stay in small groups as well. So general rule of thumb, if it's alone, it's more than likely going to be a male. And you'll see that he'll chomp away on that salt block, and then in a couple of minutes he should make his way to the water, because if you have a nice packet of chips or a nice salty bowl of popcorn, you need to get to water after that. We're still waiting for these sandgrouse. We've had one or two come in, and when they do come in, it's a really remarkable action of what they're doing. These sandgrouse that we'll show you in a little bit, these birds can travel in excess of 30 kilometers a day to and from water, and joining animals like this oryx at this life-giving point. We also see all the ducks are taking a snooze. So David's just going to take our attention off the oryx and take a look at all the shell ducks, guys, all taking a snooze on the water's edge. heads tucked in under the wing. Mom on the far right-hand side, still being fairly alert. It's quite remarkable seeing a bird with a colour dimorphism like this, where the female is brightly coloured.
She completely repositioned this entire carcass. We all thought she was going to drop it. There's a vehicle behind us and we all went, but she didn't. She is one incredible cat. I'm not sure she'll even be around tomorrow. I think this is the last little bit of this Inyala, I'm afraid. And you can see she doesn't want the hair. She may swallow some hair by accident, but she doesn't want the hair. They normally spit that out. And many of you ask, do they get hairballs? They can, but they don't swallow the hair from the carcass. And a hairball, the proper name is actually trichobezoar. Trichobezoar is the proper name of a hairball. So we obviously use the word hairball, but that actually has an official name. It can be really dangerous for some animals, but you can see leopards cough up hairballs. Landeka, can you just repeat that one more time, please? Chow, I'm not sure. You're asking, do they eat the bones? They can, not like hyenas do. Hyenas are known as the ultimate bone crushers who swallow the bones, and they've got such a high calcium content in their body. But leopards will crunch through small bones, but generally they won't eat the big bones. They really how cats do it is they initially eat the inner organs. And this is because the organs actually contain all the vitamins that they need. That's how cats get their vitamins. It's from the organs, and each organ's the heart, the kidneys, the liver. They will supply different vitamins and minerals. So most carnivores will actually eat the organs first. And of course, it's a high protein diet. So once they've eaten the organs, they tend to go for the muscles and the fats, the healthy fats that you find in the flesh, which I know doesn't sound very pleasant, but that's sort of how they eat. They go for the organs first, then they work their way out. They will crunch through bones, but this diet is very, very low in carbs, really. And in order to get energy, they need glucose. Glucose is a sugar, a natural sugar, and they need glucose to fuel not only their bodies, but also their brains. And they can synthesize this internally from several different amino acids. So the building blocks of proteins they can synthesize to get glucose. They sort of metabolize it, if you like. And they survive on a diet where they synthesize their own glucose, high in protein, high in fats, but completely low in carbs. Now, some cats will get their carbs from partially digested plant matter inside. Now, you won't really see leopards eating that, the rumen content, but if they do tend to swallow a little bit of the stomach contents of the herbivores, they will get their carb intake. And for vitamins, it's fascinating because cats actually need a completely different range of vitamins than other animals. And I will come back to that shortly. Okay, nope, I shall continue. Sorry about that. So yes, cats need a different range of vitamins. And It's normally done on a sort of per species basis, to be honest, but with cats in general, they don't require ascorbic acid, and that's vitamin C. Vitamin C is chemically known as ascorbic acid, and cats don't need that. That's why you don't see them eating oranges, by the way, and because their bodies can synthesize it. Their bodies can make it themselves. So Kalamba can produce her own ascorbic acid, her own vitamin C, so they don't need to eat that. And that's the diet of a cat. Isn't it fascinating? Now you may notice a light. That's not from us. And we're going to stay with her. And hopefully she finishes her meal soon.
Welcome back, everybody, to And Beyond Panda, where, contrary to what I said about this lion coming out, we had to go out to him. He didn't move from where he was earlier. He stood up, big old yawn. And now I think I can still just see ears of the other pride members where we left him. We've just come down to the left-hand side of this little... So the back end of this watering hole. You can see the youngsters walking off, but we've now come to him. You can see he's got a little bit of an injury, irritated injury. Another big old yawn. I think he's going to get up shortly to follow the rest of the pride. You can see he keeps steering in their direction. But quite a large individual, a hefty individual. You see the size of his paws, that really, really dark, thick mane, which will help protect himself against other male lions if he were to get in fights, or even with his brother. And that's, I think, how he got that scar on his, or that injury on his right eye. You can see he's a little bit irritated, sort of keeps leaking to maybe protect that wound or try and heal that wound. But that was most likely from his brother. Lovely to see now that very, very white fur underneath its chin, that very flat nose. Cat got my tongue asking why lions yawn. For the very same reason that you and I yawn. It's just that shock of oxygen to the brain. Start waking up, and now as it starts getting dark is when these lions will get a little bit more active. You can see even now he's sitting up. He's very alert. His ears are sort of tuned in to his surroundings. And that yawn, is exactly that, the shock of oxygen to the brain, just trying to muster up the strength to get up and move this evening. You can still see the heads of the rest of the pride up on the hill who have moved. They were lying down here with him, but they've moved up there. He's just keeping tabs on everyone from down below. Like I said, it takes quite a bit of energy, a little bit of a tail flick from him. An individual like this weighs up to around 250 kilograms, so just to build up the strength to try and lift that weight up off the deck is quite something. So you can see, maybe it's because of what I said now, he's looking at me like that. But he might just get up and eventually go out into the open this evening, in and out of consciousness again. But the tail flicking, I don't see his ear twitching. Maybe there are a couple of flies flying around him. But because there's, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lions, plus him, 9 lions, that all need food on a constant or regular basis. I definitely think the older lionesses of this pride will be out in search of a meal this evening. Might be worth coming back straight here tomorrow morning to see what's happened overnight. But yeah, like I said, contrary to what I say, he's doing the opposite. I think he's quite happy where he is now. That flat nose that I was speaking about earlier that you can see now, you can actually see out the side of his nose has got breathing space. So if his face were to be pressed up against a zebra or a wildebeest with those 8 other mouths around it feeding, he can actually breathe and eat at the same time. It's actually quite an interesting adaptation that they've got. But now quite nice to see it almost, if just from the black of his nose, that line down to his mouth and the smiley of his mouth, if you just drew that, it almost looks like a stick figure. Looks like he's fast asleep for now. I can only imagine that he'll get up and eventually join the rest of the pride and see where they take him into the evening.
Alright, Oryx being a little selfish and hogging the mineral block from this rowan, Oryx can be quite aggressive around a watering hole, and with those infamous horns being very dangerous weapons, you want to avoid the sharp end at all cost. But how beautiful is the light. David giving us a great shot there of that roan. What a magnificent animal, standing very proud. And he will more than likely make his way to the water very soon. I think he really wants to get to the mineral block, but that Oryx needs to move off before he does that. This is also a bull. Once again, females like to stay in more of a herd structure in comparison to the males, which would wander a little bit more. Nice tawny color, the coat, long ears and those short, slightly decurved horns. People always ask, the horns being decurved, how do they actually use them for weapons? Well, just like the Oryx, when that antelope wants to put down a strong hand, that antelope's head goes almost vertically with the ground, and those horns are pointing at the threat. They are formidable. Roan can also jab their horns backwards, same as sable, when they're fighting for mating rights, standing side by side and actually lashing over the shoulder onto their opponent. But those horns there are formidable. I've witnessed 2 lions have a standoff with an Oryx for 6 hours, and the Oryx had a broken right rear leg, and it was swollen like a balloon. It had set into secondary infection, and the Oryx, obviously, when in that state, when there's a threat, what Oryx would do is go into a bush, turn around, stick the bum into the bush, and then the sharp end facing the threat. 6 hours, 2 lions, they did not succeed. The lions eventually moved off, and unfortunately the next day we actually found the Oryx where the lions had been feeding, and obviously it died from just extreme stress levels. But very useful tools to be used in an open environment like this where you don't have much cover. So you want your tools and your weapons with you. The light really starting to play tricks on your eyes now, how the shadows are starting to cast the big rifts and valleys on the mountains. It's almost like it's coming alive. It's illuminating. It's changing every few seconds as the sun starts to set further and further. So the visual aspect of these mountains will change. There's constant stimuli out here. It's from the green of the trees to the beautiful landscape, the animals, the insects. It's remarkable.
She's settled. She's stopped feeding. And she's not positioned herself in the best position, but you can see those chubby little legs dangling and the tail. That's about all you can see, actually. Thank you, Tlalamba. We reposition, then we reposition some more, and every time we reposition, she moves. I think she's probably wanting some peace and quiet, to be honest. Oh, we're having a groom. We've still got Antebellum and Corky here. Whether they will get any more of the Signala, I am not sure. It was worth waiting. We waited in this drainage line quite a while, but we knew at some point, as soon as it started to get cooler, she was going to come back. Leopards will not leave their hoisted carcasses as long as there's meat on it. Never. So we knew she was going to come at some point. I actually think she may have been avoiding the elephants, just waiting for the elephants to pass before she came back. Stephen, I have no idea what your question means. Are female leopards attention seekers? I guess I'm just going to have to go with a guess on that one. I don't think so. Now, Miss Kalamba definitely can play up for the camera, but I find female leopards out here far more elusive, especially Miss Tandy. When they don't want to be seen, they will not be seen. And I guess that's because they do live in solitary. They've got to be stealthy, they've got to be quiet. I just think Kalamba, sometimes being young or younger, she just wants to have fun. Hosanna was the same. Everything caught their attention. They were so curious. I think that's just the nature of a cat. So I have no idea if I've answered your question, but hopefully somewhere in that explanation I did. See, she's listening. Everything catches her attention. I didn't catch that name, but you're asking, do wood leopards attack lion cubs? Absolutely, yes. All the predators in the hierarchy would kill each other's young, be it a leopard, a lion, a hyena, a wild dog, a cheetah, absolutely. And as hard as that is for us to get the head around, if a leopard came across lion cubs stashed away in the Mowati or stashed away in the thicket, yes, they would absolutely kill them. If the mamas were around, no, they would turn around and run. But if there was no mama present, yes, they would. Leopards kill their own, not their own, sorry, but their own species cubs. Female leopards kill other female leopards' cubs. Hyenas, absolutely. Yes, and Debele, we're talking about you. Hyenas would. Even wild dogs would. It's how the predator hierarchy works. Kill your competitor's offspring. Which is naturally very sad for us to think of, but yes, they do. And for leopard cubs in particular, male leopards and lions and spotted hyenas together account for 91% of all cub mortality. That's a really high figure, so it's mainly due to predators. Under 10% most likely would be starvation or abandonment or disease, but 91% is predators, including male leopards. Male leopards who have clearly not mated with that female and have an instinct or a knowledge that those cubs are not his. And if that female is in his territory, then he absolutely will kill them. That's why Kalamba, when she does have her first litter, she's going to have to really look after her offspring. And she's very close to the jam cam, everyone, so all you keen jam camp people, keep your eye out for tonight. I have a funny feeling she might come for a drink and possibly a saw or two in front of the camera. She's an attention seeker after all. But thank you everyone for jumping on board. It's always a pleasure to have you here with us, and please do join us tomorrow. Until then, good night.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.